Foreigners as a joke has been a staple of sitcom comedy for decades. The idea is to take a character from a different country, drop them into an American setting, and play up the cultural differences for laughs. In fact, they've even made entire movies around this concept, like Borat or Coming to America. At its core, the joke relies on contrasting different cultures and customs with American culture, while especially highlighting differences between the cultures, such as language barriers or customs and clothing, as a source of comedy. The punchline is that these characters have different accents, mannerisms, or traditions that seem strange to an American audience. The way this trope is usually executed is by leaning heavily on exaggerating stereotypes rather than offering any real insights into the foreign character's background. Many of these characters are portrayed as having limited or no knowledge of American culture and may act in a way that is seen as weird or off-putting because of that. These characters are framed as being socially awkward, ignorant of American norms, and also may be overly enthusiastic about assimilating into American culture. You know, one could argue that these characters could introduce American audiences to new cultures, but more often than not, the representation lacks depth. Instead of fostering a meaningful cultural exchange, sitcoms tend to use foreign characters as comedic relief, rarely exploring their backgrounds in a way that feels authentic or respectful. The cultural norms they exhibit are often so exaggerated that they border on parody, and in some cases, they aren't even accurate portrayals of real traditions or customs. They're completely made up for a joke. Essentially, these characters' cultural identities serves as a punchline rather than something to be celebrated or explored. The overarching message seems to be that the foreign character must assimilate into American culture to be accepted, while their own culture is treated as a joke. So today we're going to take a closer look at how this trope plays out in sitcoms, using a few characters as examples. Also, just as a disclaimer, I'm not passing judgment on anyone who at any point found these portrayals or jokes to be funny. I'm simply pointing out a pattern I noticed. That's all. One of the most common ways sitcoms portray foreign characters in a comedic setting is by making their culture seem weird or using their cultural norms as the punchline of a joke. The joke comes from the idea that their customs or behaviors are different from American ones, and that difference is treated as inherently funny. Instead of offering meaningful representation, these shows often exaggerate or fabricate aspects of characters' cultural background, reducing their identity to a running gag. A prime example of this trope is Fez from That 70s Show. From the beginning, Fez being a foreigner is a defining characteristic. His name is never revealed because the other characters couldn't be bothered to learn it, so they call him Fez, which is short for foreign exchange student.
Well, my name is...
Okay, I'm not gonna remember that.
This alone sets the tone for his character. His identity is not important, beyond the fact that he's not American. Throughout the show, Fez's culture and country of origin remain intentionally vague, reinforcing the idea that he is a generic foreigner rather than someone from a specific place with a rich background. Many of the joke around Fez's expense revolve around his misunderstanding of American customs, his accent, and his desperate attempts to fit in.
Remember how much fun Halloween used to be? Making costumes, trick-or-treating?
What is trick-or-treating?
Well, you put on a costume, you go door to door and say trick or treat, and people give you candy.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. They just give you candy. They give you candy? Just like that, no strings.
Yes, Fez, get over it.
Free candy? Even if you're not from this country?
Yes!
Telling me that if I show up at someone's house and say trick or treat, they'll give me a free piece of candy?
Yes!
Oh, I don't believe you. Trick or treat. An apple? Where's my candy, you son of a bitch?
There's even an episode where Fez has to learn about American culture in order to get his green card, which leads to the other characters laughing at his naivete and giving him a biased view of American history.
Why do we celebrate the 4th of July?
Because we are damn glad not to be a bunch of British tea-drinking Nancy Pants.
Nobody's gonna argue with that answer.
His culture is not something to be explored or appreciated, it's simply used as a source of confusion and comedy. Sometimes rather than using an actual foreign culture, sitcoms go as far as creating fictional countries with exaggerated customs purely to make jokes about them. This is a common trope in Dan Schneider shows.
You and your friends like to take a trip to my home country, Yerba.
Yerba?
It's a very exotic island.
Like Hawaii?
Sure, yeah, like that.
It's a glaucoma!
No, this is a goat. Glaucoma means goat.
Yes, you see, the goat is the national symbol of Udonia. The glaucoma is very sacred in my country.
A clear example of this is in Victorious, where the main characters visit a fictional country called Yerba, which is portrayed as having absurdly strict customs, which leads them to being arrested. The country's legal systems and traditions are depicted as being weird, reinforcing the idea that foreign places are inherently strange and nonsensical, but even beyond that, also dangerous. That episode specifically felt like a scapegoat for treating foreign cultures as barbaric and war-torn.
Want to leave Yerba?
We hate it here. Our friend is hallucinating.
An escaped prisoner crashed through a window and was dragged out by Urbanian soldiers! And our bed is lumpy.
This approach allows the show to make fun of foreign cultures without having to be held accountable for misrepresenting a real one. Yerba isn't a real place. There's no such thing as Udonia. We have no idea where Fez is really from. So it gives shows the license to be as absurd as they want in their depiction of these foreign cultures. Another example is Gloria from Modern Family. Throughout the show, Gloria frequently references traditions from her Colombian upbringing, but these are exaggerated and presented in a very ridiculous way. In the show, Gloria refers to her hometown as a village. She at one point mentions that her nanny was a goat named Lupe.
I was 5 years old. My babysitter was a goat.
What?
I please, you know about Lupe.
Never said she was a goat.
You know, it's
And her ancestors laid a curse on her family. All this simply reinforces the idea that her culture is weird and potentially dangerous. She mentions how in her village, people solved their problem with violence rather than words.
Calm. Shouldn't we follow them or call the police?
No, it's just a kidnapping. It's normal in my family. Ransom call. ¿Sí? Dame el negocio de las asas. Regrésame el niño o te arranco los 3 pelos que tienes en la cabeza.
Mom, I'm really scared.
She wants my hot sauce business in exchange for Manny.
Good. She owes us $400. We get the kid back.
No deal. I'll handle it.
Many of Gloria's stories about her past are used as comedic contrast to the more structured American way of life, making her culture seem over the top rather than something to be understood or respected. Her accent also becomes a frequent target of humor, with other characters often misunderstanding her or making fun of her pronunciation of words.
Honest with me.
Okay, well, I may have noticed some tiny little mistakes you might want to take a look at.
Like what?
Just little mispronunciations. Like, for example, last night you said, we live in a dog-eat-dog world.
So?
Well, it's dog-eat-dog world.
Raj from The Big Bang Theory is another character whose foreignness is treated as an ongoing joke. His Indian background is often used as comedy, with many jokes focusing on his upbringing, religion, and family. His accent, too, is exaggerated compared to the actor's real voice, reinforcing the idea that Indians speak in a way that is inherently funny to American audiences. Howard often impersonates Raj's accent to mock him.
All right, hotshot, let's hear your Indian.
I can't sit on that elephant. My ass is on fire from eating all this curry.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty good.
Similarly, Ravi from Jessie is another character who embodies this trope, particularly for younger audiences. His Indian heritage is exaggerated to the point of parody, with a thick accent, overly formal way of speaking, and even down to the way he dresses.
Hello, good family. Who's ready to get their learn on?
Oh my. What you wearing?
It is my sherwani, only worn on very special occasions. Since my tutor says I'm now ready to start school with Emma and Luke, what better day to wear it?
In one episode, Luke is embarrassed to be seen with Ravi at school because of how weird and off-putting he is to everyone else, reinforcing the idea that his foreignness is something to be ashamed of. Like Raj, Ravi's character is built around this stereotype. He's smart but socially awkward, and clings to aspects of his Indian heritage that people find weird or off-putting, like the fact that he has a pet Komodo dragon. You can make the argument that these characters do bring diversity to television, but their portrayals are often one-dimensional. They very rarely feel fully fleshed out. Instead of using their backgrounds to educate audiences or to provide authentic representation, often prioritize easy laughs. These characters very rarely get to explore their own culture in a genuine way, and when they do, it's usually framed as strange or comedic rather than valuable or educational. The overarching message tends to be that foreign characters must adapt to American culture in order to fit in, while their own tradition and customs are mocked or sidelined. Another one of the components of this trope is the idea that foreign characters must assimilate into American culture while denying or dimming their own native culture in order to fit in and be accepted. They must learn what it means to be American and emulate it as much as possible. And oftentimes, there are plotlines dedicated to schooling these characters on just that. Fez's prominent arc in that 70s show revolves around his struggle to fit into American culture. Since his home country is never revealed, the audience never learns about his actual cultural background or identity. The only thing we know about him is that he's different. He's not American. And none of the other characters make any real effort in learning about his culture or identity. It's Fez's responsibility to conform to American culture, reinforcing the idea that he needs to be more American in order to be respected.
So Vietnam was an illegal war, which we lost.
What the hell are you teaching him? You! Come with me. I'll teach you the real American history. First of all, we didn't lose the war, it was a tie. Besides, they're grateful. They have McDonald's now.
Throughout the show, Fez is constantly adjusting his behavior to be seen as normal among his friends, which in this case means more American. Raj from The Big Bang Theory also sometimes struggles with American culture, and much of his character arc revolves around his attempts to assimilate. While his friends make little to no effort to understand his background, Raj is constantly made fun of for his Indian traditions and is expected to adapt to American norms.
Beef cows are gods. Not technically. In Hinduism, cattle are thought to be like God.
Do not tell me about my own culture, Sheldon. In the mood I'm in, I'll take you out, I swear to cow.
A significant plotline in the show revolves around Raj considering an arranged marriage, which is a common practice in many Indian families. However, instead of presenting it as a legitimate cultural tradition, the show plays it up as something strange and undesirable. Raj's friend mocks the idea, reinforcing the idea that the Western way of dating is the right way to find love.
You're really letting your father pick out a wife?
Why not? Arranged marriages have been working for thousands of years. Anu and I come from similar backgrounds. Our families get along. And we each fill out questionnaires so we know we're not wasting our time with someone who's not compatible.
Oh, that sounds so dry and clinical.
You lucky duck.
But over time, throughout the show, Raj does distance himself from his Indian identity and culture and conforms to a more American standard of dating. Raj feels so much pressure to assimilate into American culture that he often emulates his best friend Howard.
Nothing. I just decided to stop straightening it.
Wait, so you were making your hair look like that on purpose?
When I first moved to America, I wanted to fit in, and Howard's hair was straight, and he was the coolest person I knew.
Then you never saw any other people?
In Jessie, Ravi is portrayed as the most visibly foreign character, and the show frequently makes jokes about his Indian background. Unlike the other kids in the Ross family, Ravi is expected to assimilate into American culture, and when he doesn't, it becomes a source of embarrassment for others. Again, there was that episode where Luke was ashamed to be seen with Ravi, or for people to know that he was actually his brother, because of how weird everyone thought he was.
Like an idiot, Belle.
Luke was worried that Ravi's Indian accent and traditional clothing and mannerisms will make him less popular. In Modern Family, Gloria also spends a significant amount of time trying to learn and understand American culture. And anytime she struggles, she's made fun of because of it. Another underlying idea within this trope is the idea that their lack of knowledge surrounding American culture is a handicap and actually makes them less competent than their American counterparts. Gloria specifically is oftentimes framed as being less intelligent than the other characters because she sometimes gets her English language confused or is just sometimes ignorant about American culture. Instead of being portrayed as equals with different backgrounds, these characters are often framed as naive, socially awkward, or even unintelligent simply because they don't fully understand American customs. Gloria is an intelligent, strong-willed woman, but the show often portrays her as being less competent than the other characters simply because she struggles with English or doesn't immediately grasp American norms. A running gag throughout the series is her frequent confusion between words, leading to misunderstandings, especially when she gets American idioms wrong.
Do you know how frustrating it is to have to translate everything in my head before I say it? To have people laugh in my face because I'm struggling to find the words? You should try talking in my shoes from 1 mile.
I think you meant...
I know what I meant to mean. Do you even know how smart I am in Spanish? Of course you don't.
Ravi from Jessie also experienced a similar dynamic. Even though he's portrayed as academically gifted, often being the smartest member of the Ross family, his intelligence is frequently undermined by the fact that he's unfamiliar with American social norms, which makes him come across as socially awkward. So in that sense, he's uneducated and has to be taught by the other members of the family. Ravi is often depicted as book smart, but unable to function properly in everyday situations because of his lack of understanding of American culture.
But the teenager in me knows that being yourself can sometimes be a one-way ticket to Swirlyville.
Ooh, Swirlyville. It sounds like a magical place where everyone gets frozen yogurt.
No, a swirly is a toilet shampoo.
So no sprinkles?
Sometimes.
Raj from The Big Bang Theory also falls into this trope. Although he's a successful astrophysicist, some of his unfamiliarity with American pop culture often makes him the subject of ridicule.
I don't get it.
You didn't have Smokey the Bear in India?
No. Oh, was he anything like Munmun the mongoose? He taught us not to play with cobras.
You had to be taught not to play with cobras?
You had to be taught not to burn down the forest?
The foreigner trope in sitcoms is a reflection of how mainstream media has historically viewed immigrants, not as complex individuals with rich histories, but as outsiders whose differences are meant to be laughed at. While some of these characters have become beloved figures in television, it's important to recognize the ways in which their portrayals reinforce stereotypes rather than break them down. So let me know what your thoughts were about this trope. Any other characters you can think of in film or TV that fit into this trope. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.